The Dead Sea Scrolls. The ancient manuscripts that changed history. Asterisk. In the spring of 1947, a young shepherd climbed the rocky cliffs overlooking one of the most desolate places on Earth. The landscape around him seemed lifeless. Towering limestone caves overlooked the shimmering waters of the Dead Sea. The air was dry. The silence was almost complete. He was searching for a lost goat. Instead, he discovered one of the greatest archaeological treasures of the 20th century. Hidden inside a dark cave were tall clay jars. Inside those jars, ancient scrolls, wrapped in linen, protected from the outside world, waiting in silence for nearly 2,000 years. No one could have imagined that these forgotten manuscripts would transform the study of ancient history, biblical texts, and the world of Second Temple Judaism. This is the story of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the ancient manuscripts that changed history. The Dead Sea lies between modern-day Jordan and Israel, in one of the lowest places on Earth. The surrounding landscape is harsh. Rocky cliffs rise above the shoreline. Rain falls only rarely. The dry desert climate has preserved fragile objects that would have decayed almost anywhere else. For thousands of years, these caves remained largely undisturbed. Wind moved through them. Birds nested inside them. But deep within the darkness, history waited. According to the traditional account, the discovery began almost by accident. A Bedouin shepherd searching for one of his missing animals threw a stone into a cave. Instead of hearing the sound of rock striking the ground, he heard something unexpected, the sharp sound of breaking pottery. Curious, he climbed inside. There, standing against the cave walls, were several large clay jars. Some were empty. Others still contained ancient scrolls wrapped carefully in linen cloth. The shepherd had no idea what he had found. To him, they appeared to be very old pieces of leather covered with strange writing. The scrolls eventually reached antiquities dealers. From there, they attracted the attention of scholars. Almost immediately, experts realized they were looking at something extraordinary. These were not medieval manuscripts. They were far older. Much older. Scientific analysis would later confirm that many of the scrolls dated between the 3rd century BC and the 1st century AD. More than 2,000 years old. Over the following years, archaeologists began systematically exploring the surrounding cliffs. The first cave was only the beginning. Eventually, 11 caves near the ancient settlement of Qumran produced thousands of manuscript fragments and hundreds of separate texts. Some survived almost intact. Others had been broken into hundreds of tiny pieces. Reconstructing them became one of the greatest scholarly puzzles ever attempted. Imagine dumping thousands of pieces from dozens of ancient puzzles into a single box, then trying to rebuild every page without knowing exactly how many books originally existed. That was the challenge facing researchers. Each tiny fragment mattered. A single word could transform the meaning of an entire text. The work required decades of patience. The manuscripts themselves were written primarily on parchment, made from animal skin. Others appeared on papyrus. Most were written in Hebrew, some in Aramaic, a smaller number in Greek. The writing remained astonishingly clear, considering its incredible age. The desert had become an accidental time capsule. The climate that made life difficult had also preserved history. The discovery immediately raised an extraordinary question. Who wrote these scrolls? And why were they hidden inside remote caves overlooking the Dead Sea? The nearby ruins of Qumran offered important clues. Archaeologists uncovered the remains of an ancient settlement. Stone buildings, water reservoirs, workshops, communal spaces, and what appeared to be rooms used for copying manuscripts. Ink wells discovered at the site suggested that writing had played an important role in the community. Many scholars proposed that the settlement had been occupied by a Jewish religious group, often identified with the Essenes, a community described by several ancient writers. According to this interpretation, members of the community carefully copied sacred texts, composed religious writings, and eventually hid their scrolls inside nearby caves as Roman forces advanced during the First Jewish Revolt in the 1st century AD. This remains one of the most widely discussed theories. However, not every scholar agrees. Some researchers argue that the scrolls may represent collections brought from libraries in Jerusalem, rather than being produced entirely at Qumran itself. Others suggest multiple communities contributed to the collection over time. The debate continues. But, regardless of their exact origin, the importance of the scrolls is beyond question. Among the manuscripts were some of the oldest known copies of books that later became part of the Hebrew Bible. Until their discovery, many of the oldest complete biblical manuscripts available to scholars dated to around 1,000 years after many of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Suddenly, historians possessed texts copied centuries closer to the time when the originals had been composed. This created an extraordinary opportunity. Researchers could compare different versions of ancient texts across more than 1,000 years of transmission. The results surprised many people. Although variations certainly existed, numerous passages demonstrated remarkable continuity across the centuries. For historians and textual scholars, this represented one of the most significant discoveries of the modern era. But the scrolls contained far more than biblical manuscripts. There were community rules, religious commentaries, poetry, prayers, calendars, legal discussions, apocalyptic visions, and writings unlike anything previously known. Together they opened an entirely new window into Jewish life during the centuries surrounding the birth of Christianity. Instead of relying only on later historical sources, scholars could now study voices written by people living during that remarkable period themselves. The ancient world became more detailed, more human, more complex. Yet the greatest mystery was still waiting. Why were these priceless manuscripts hidden away? Were they stored for safekeeping? Were they meant to be recovered later? Did those who hid them ever return? Or did history interrupt their plans forever? The answers may have vanished with the people who carried the scrolls into those silent caves. But what survived would forever change our understanding of the ancient world. Because inside those weathered pieces of parchment, history had been patiently waiting for the modern world to listen. For historians, the greatest value of the Dead Sea Scrolls was never their age alone. Ancient manuscripts are discovered from time to time, but the scrolls found near the Dead Sea were different. They opened a window into a world that had almost vanished from history. A world of scholars, priests, scribes, and communities living during one of the most important periods in the ancient Near East. A time when kingdoms had fallen. Empires ruled the region. Religious traditions were evolving. And ideas were spreading across cultures. Among the hundreds of manuscripts were copies of many books that later became part of the Hebrew Bible. Some were nearly complete. Others survived only as small fragments. Together they represented the oldest known biblical manuscripts ever discovered. For centuries, scholars had relied primarily on medieval Hebrew manuscripts, copied around 1,000 years after many of the original texts were first written. The Dead Sea Scrolls suddenly pushed that timeline back by more than 1,000 years. This allowed researchers to compare ancient copies separated by centuries. Would the texts be completely different? Had generations of copying changed them beyond recognition? The answer was both fascinating and reassuring. Many passages showed an extraordinary degree of continuity. At the same time, scholars identified variations in wording, spelling, and arrangement. These differences became invaluable for understanding how ancient texts were copied, preserved, and transmitted through generations. The discovery did not weaken the study of history. It strengthened it, because it offered direct evidence instead of speculation. Yet the biblical manuscripts represented only part of the collection. Many scrolls describe the beliefs, rules, and daily life of the community that preserved them. One document, often called the Community Rule, outlines expectations for discipline, worship, leadership, and communal living. Another text, known as the War Scroll, presents a dramatic vision of the struggle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. There were hymns, commentaries, calendars, legal discussions, interpretations of prophecy. Some writings had never been seen before. Others offered familiar ideas from entirely new perspectives. Together they revealed an astonishing diversity of religious thought during the Second Temple period. The ancient world became richer, more complex, more human. For decades, another mystery surrounded the scrolls themselves. Not all of them survived intact. Many had broken into thousands of tiny fragments. Some pieces contained only a few letters. Others had faded almost beyond recognition. Reconstructing these manuscripts became one of the greatest intellectual challenges in modern archaeology. Researchers spent years comparing handwriting, matching torn edges, studying ink, examining the texture of parchment. Sometimes one tiny fragment, no larger than a fingernail, completed a sentence that scholars had struggled to understand for generations. Today, technology has transformed that work. Multispectral imaging allows researchers to reveal writing invisible to the naked eye. Different wavelengths of light expose faded ink that ordinary photography cannot capture. Digital reconstruction software helps scholars compare fragments from thousands of pieces simultaneously. Artificial intelligence is beginning to assist researchers by suggesting possible matches between damaged fragments. The work continues. Even after more than 70 years of study, the Dead Sea Scrolls are still revealing new information. That is one of the remarkable qualities of archaeology. A discovery does not end when an artifact is found. Sometimes the real discovery begins only afterward. The scrolls have also raised important historical questions. Who exactly preserved them? For many years, the dominant theory connected the manuscripts with a Jewish group known as the Essenes. Ancient writers described the Essenes as a disciplined religious community, living apart from mainstream society. Some aspects of those descriptions appear consistent with the archaeological evidence at Qumran. Yet, not all scholars agree. Some suggest a settlement served multiple purposes over different periods. Others believe at least part of the manuscript collection came from libraries in Jerusalem, hidden in the caves during the Roman invasion. The debate continues. Like many great archaeological mysteries, the evidence allows several possible interpretations. This uncertainty is not a weakness. It reflects the careful nature of historical research. Archaeology rarely provides perfect answers. Instead, it gathers evidence piece by piece. Each excavation, each laboratory test, each newly deciphered fragment adds another small piece to an enormous puzzle. The Dead Sea Scrolls remind us how fragile knowledge can be. Had the desert climate been slightly wetter, the parchment would have decayed. Had the caves been disturbed centuries earlier, the manuscripts might have been destroyed. Had one shepherd chosen a different path in 1947, history might never have known these texts existed. Chance played a remarkable role, but chance alone cannot explain their survival. Someone deliberately placed those scrolls inside carefully prepared jars. Someone carried them into the caves. Someone believed they were important enough to protect. Whether they hoped to recover them later or simply hoped they would survive, we may never know. Their identities have disappeared. Their names are lost. But their decision changed history. Today, the Dead Sea Scrolls are preserved with extraordinary care. Many fragments are kept in climate-controlled environments designed to protect them from light, humidity, and temperature changes. High-resolution digital archives allow scholars around the world to study them without handling the fragile originals. Modern technology continues the work begun by ancient scribes. The methods have changed. The goal remains the same: to preserve knowledge, to pass it forward, to ensure that future generations can continue asking questions. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden within the caves of the Dead Sea. Civilizations are remembered not only by the monuments they build, they are remembered by the ideas they preserve. Stone buildings can collapse. Kingdoms can disappear. Empires can fall. But words have the power to cross centuries. The people who copied these scrolls could never have imagined satellites, digital photography, artificial intelligence, or researchers reading their work across the world with a single click. Yet their voices survived, not because they were powerful, but because they chose to write, and because someone chose to protect what they had written. The Dead Sea Scrolls waited in silence for nearly 2,000 years. Not because history forgot them, but because the right moment to rediscover them had not yet arrived. Their story reminds us that the greatest discoveries are not always buried beneath magnificent temples or hidden inside royal tombs. Sometimes, they rest quietly inside forgotten caves, waiting for someone curious enough to ask. What if history is still speaking? And perhaps more forgotten voices are still waiting beneath the deserts of the ancient world, patiently, silently, for the day they will be heard once again.